I've been saying it. I've been telling you schmucks for years now at this point. Medellin is done. They hate foreigners. It is a dangerous, crappy city to go to, and you shouldn't go there. By the way, in the video, they're saying, Gringos, puteros, aquí no los queremos, which means gringos, you whoremongers, we don't want you here. And at the very end, they start screaming, cómplices, cómplices. That means like accomplices, like partners in crime, to the businesses around parque lleras that are basically operating, not basically, they are operating as 100% brothels. Now, it's been cope for a lot of people. A lot of people have said, oh, Casey, you just had an incident on Twitter where some feminists got mad that you were throwing parties and inviting the hottest girls and banging the hottest girls in their country and putting it in their faces and not inviting them, and they didn't get an invite, and they kind of attacked you on social media. So you have a bad taste in your mouth with Medellin, right? But it's not so bad. It's still good. Now I have irrefutable proof, okay, that they hate foreigners. Actually, we're getting into more proof later on. They are literally rioting in the streets, harassing gringos and telling them to go home. At the beginning of the video, I start off this video with that clip. I'm not sure if I can find it, but if I can, either now or maybe in the editing, I'll put it at the beginning right after the first one. But there's even footage of them like kicking gringos out, saying like going up to coffee shops, going up to businesses, gringos hanging out in lleras, and harass him saying, leave my country, gringo. At the airport, the mayor of Medellin, he is literally handing out flyers that more or less say, hey, if you're coming here for any type of sexual tourism, try that, run that shit somewhere else. We don't want you here. They are. Imagine if, as a Colombian, you were to get off a plane at immigration and they were to say, by the way, we don't know who you are or anything about you, but you're Colombian. So if you're thinking about selling cocaine here, like just don't try that shit here. Try Canada, try somewhere else, but don't do that shit here. Imagine if we were passing out flyers saying this, right? And then you guys are about to attack me in the comments. Oh, but, they do have these nasty sex tourists coming there, da-da-da. That's what it's for. You build Disneyland, and then you get mad that people come there to meet Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. You build an international brothel where 80% of the beautiful women in your city are sex workers. And yes, I have proof of this coming up later in the video, so stay tuned. And then you get mad that people come there for that. There's nothing else to do. And I digress. I'm going to get back into this. But let me point out, now that we have irrefutable proof that they're literally rioting in the streets, harassing gringos, passing out flyers saying, gringos, don't come here. We don't want you here. Literally rioting the streets. It's pretty much unavoidable, right? Now, I was the first YouTuber to ever say this. I've been saying this for two. I'm pretty, I have a kind of a gift for picking up on trends and in social trends. I was one of the first people to like kind of notice like, the stuff that CNN is promoting, like that's actually not real news anymore. That's like just completely fabricated. But anyway, I digress. I put out a video called The Sad Truth About Dating as a Foreigner in Medellin, where I basically talked about a lot of things, but the long and short of it is that the women there are completely brainwashed by their xenophobic and racist culture to hate gringos and only want to date the local guys, despite the local guys being objectively worse in every possible metric you can possibly be as a man, right? But more on that in a second. So one thing you got to understand is I come from a very different pedigree than the rest of these influencers and pickup YouTubers. I mean, these guys, they're just total simps. They're vegans. They're male feminists. They couldn't get pussy from a dead cat in the United States. And they fit that typical stereotype of like an at-home loser that had to go overseas. I was one of the few guys that actually got laid in America during the glory days before feminism took over, before I went overseas. And a lot of these guys, they're just happy to be dating a girl that isn't fat and combative for the first time in their life. Maybe they got like a nice 7. Little they know she's completely low quality. She's very low IQ. She probably has nothing interesting to say. She's totally only in it for the money. She's probably covered in tattoos, history of sex work, does drugs, etc. But these guys think they won the lottery because, again, they're just thrilled to not have a Western woman who's fat and nagging them and actually, is feminine, right? Now, admittedly, there are about some, I don't know, whatever percentage, who knows, but there are some beautiful, intelligent, English-speaking women in Medellin, but they're pretty much unicorns. They're pretty much off limits to foreigners, which we'll talk about in a second. And about 80% of the beautiful women there are involved in some type of sex work, which I have irrefutable proof of that coming up, which we'll talk about in a second. And as you can tell, like I was saying about, with these other losers, my video editor, to keep you entertained, has been showing B-roll and footage from both girls that I dated and parties that I used to throw when I lived there. Oh, and by the way, every single one of the girls that you've seen on the screen that my editors put, I met on Instagram, okay? Every single one has been met on Instagram, the biggest and best dating app in the world. If you want my free guide on how to meet women on Instagram, just go to my Instagram, RedbeardRants1, and DM me the word Instagram. Wow, I just said Instagram a lot in the last 10 seconds, but go to my Instagram, RedbeardRants1, and DM me the word Instagram, and I'll send you the guide. But anyway, back to my point. So, man, even as early as 2016 and 2017 when I first arrived, me and my friends, we kind of noticed that, like, these girls that we're getting out here, a lot of them are just like, barrio girls, and they're like not the best quality. Like, I even remember I made a group chat. I called it like, meeting of the Avengers. And we were like, went out to dinner and we got as many guys as we could, there to have a little hive mind and like kind of brainstorm this. Like, why is it that, okay, like let's break this down. Let's strategically and logically break this down. Objectively, not opinion based, not subjectively, but objectively, us, the gringos, the foreigners that come here to Medellin, at least our group, can't speak for all of them, but at least, my social circle, we are objectively orders of magnitude better looking, taller, higher IQ, wealthier, more masculine, better game, etc., than any of these Colombian dudes. So why is it not the case where we're getting the top girls? It's either, a 7 that has a good personality, good values, or it's a really, really hot chick like a 9, but she maybe, has or had an OnlyFans. She's completely retarded. She has a lot of tattoos, etc. But, there would be the rare exception. Of course, me, with my Instagram game and, my technique of meeting women on Instagram, putting together a high status profile, I did pretty well. But I would notice I didn't get irritated that, like, I'm in Medellin, and every time I get a high quality girl and I have like a fling, like a little romance with a girl, it's always a girl not from Medellin. It's a Venezuelan or a costeña, a girl from Cali, Barranquilla, or like I said, a girl from another country, like a Venezuelan girl, which actually those are the best girls that you want to find if you go there. But I got like angry. I'm like, why am I never dating any of the girls that live here, right? And slowly but surely, the answer revealed itself to us, which is that the anti-Gringo culture of these racist, xenophobic retards was preventing 99% of the top-level girls from wanting to date a Gringo. It's pure culture and brainwashing. So remember how I said that, I was one of the first ones to point this out on YouTube, and I started making this, internal argument, with my friends that like, hey, I really think that there's like some anti-Gringo stuff going on, and, blah, 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 blah. And I published that video, and 80% of people, just wholeheartedly, agreed with me, and maybe another 10 or 20% on that first. Remember I talked about, I did that first video about the sad truth about dating as a Gringo. I would get a lot of pushback, a lot of cope. But, as we talked about, we have irrefutable evidence now. Like I said, what more evidence do you need than Gringos being harassed in the streets? I think they even started like a little fire in this. It was like a controlled fire. They weren't burning the cities down like in the BLM riots, right? But screaming, harassing, Gringos. There's multiple videos of this. Like I said, the mayor passing out flyers. Again, just imagine if we did that to like Mexicans. Hey, we know that you're Mexican and blah blah blah, but just don't bring any drugs across from Tijuana, anything like that. And then I know I'm jumping around all the place here, but even the guys that do come here and don't date sex workers, just be brutally honest, right? Well, they're not aware, but they're dating bottom of the barrel women. It's not like Brazil here. Like, I live in Brazil. A lot of you guys message me, I'm coming to Medellin. Could I kick it with you? Why would like half of my content be about how much I hate Medellin? Why would you think that I live in Medellin still? I also mentioned that I live in Sao Paulo, Brazil. But it's not like Brazil. We can get a beautiful girl that's just like, she's just a smoker, right? And then she also, makes her own money, lawyer, gym, really good values, never asks you for money, etc. And it still really blows my mind that people just haven't discovered that like other cities and other countries exist. Like I just talked about Brazil, but maybe now it's reaching such a boiling point. I've been seeing in like Passport Bros groups, like guys are starting to like kind of wake up and realize that like, hey, maybe Medellin isn't the only city on the planet, or Colombia, the only country on the planet that has, you know, beautiful women. And, you know, aside from what I'm posting and the videos I'm bringing to light, I mean, every time you turn on the news, you know, first it's like they crack down on Airbnb. I'll actually post a screenshot now. Shout out to my boys. They have a channel called the Mentuition show or podcast. Yeah, Mentuition. Steve and International Al, whatever, however he goes by. But Airbnb hosts are canceling on their guests because there's a crackdown. They now strictly enforce like the 30-day rule on Airbnb, whereas before, Passpros could jump in there for a weekend to get their Airbnb. They are doing everything that they can to keep Gringos out of there, right? They just don't like us. I mean, within reason. We're taller, we're better looking, we have more money, we fuck all the hottest girls. It brings more money, which encourages even more women to, you know, get into sex work. You know, the next thing they did, aside from cracking on an Airbnb, is they closed Parque Lleras, which we talked about. We showed the riots there. And just even talked to them about like actually banning dating apps, because again, who uses dating apps primarily? Gringos, right? And, you know, a lot of escorts on there, you know, things like that. And like we, you know, talked about that. And, you know, and it's really funny, and like the low IQ and hypocrisy of these people has just reached such epic proportions because like I was mentioning earlier, you literally build a Disneyland and you get angry when people come to Disneyland and want to meet Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, aka in Medellin. You literally built the world's biggest brothel, biggest drug den, and then you get mad and pass out flyers to the foreigners who come to the brothel that you built, that your culture ever since the narco days and Pablo Escobar revolve around, and you get mad when they come there for the only reason to come. And there's literally no other reason to go to Medellin. Why would you come if it wasn't to get sex with easy girls or, you know, pay for the kitty? It's a culture of robbing, backstabbing, murder, drug trafficking, prostitution. You know, you guys watch these like narco novellas, even some of them that are produced in Medellin. There's one called Sin Senos No Hay Paraíso. It means like without tits, there's no paradise. Written, produced in Colombia. So it's not like American perception of, no, it's like even these narco novellas that are like, you know, like a narco novella would be like, what are they called? Oh my God, what's the English word for novella? These daytime like super dramas, forget the word in English, but like they're produced, like the way they portray Colombia is accurate. Like the most popular TV series to come out of Colombia is Sin Ceros No Hay Paraíso, about drugs, prostitution. I mean, the girl like wants to sell herself to the narcos, but she can't do it, so she gets breast implants and gets an infection from it and dies and stuff like that. And, you know, like that is an accurate portrayal of Colombia. One thing I also want to talk about is this guy that is going viral there. I just want to talk about the hypocrisy and low IQ. It's this guy named Timothy Allen Livingston. Okay, so if you don't know the story, a lot of you Passport Bros will know the story. This is an American who went to Medellin, specifically, I don't want to tempt the algorithm any more than I'm already doing it, but let's just say he went to have a play date with some women that are just, you know, too young to be having a play date, right? These women were around 12 and 13 years old. And he didn't even actually get to go on the play date. He went down there to have the play date. He tried to bring these women, these young girls, into his hotel room, but he got caught and stopped by reception and then just booked it, left back to Florida. Interpol is now looking for this guy. I think at the time of making this video, they haven't captured him yet. And the Colombians are all up in arms, making this guy the biggest scapegoat, trying to paint all gringos by the same brush, saying that they're all like that. They're all into, you know, having play dates with underage women, etc. Blah, 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 blah. For the record, what he did is disgusting, and I don't support or condone anything like that in any way, shape, or form. But I want to point out the low IQ and the hypocrisy here. First of all, 99.9% of the gringos are not going there for underage girls. Let's just start there. The next thing, these women, these, you know, 12 and 13-year-old women are almost the legal age of consent in Colombia anyway, which is 14 years old. Now, I personally don't agree. If I was like Lord and Master of the universe, if I was president of Colombia, I would change that. I don't condone a consent of 14 years old, but they do. And it's not even a thing in the city so much. It's more in like the coastal cities and like the pueblos, the small towns. 14 is the legal age of consent, bro. It's happening with 12 and 13 all the time. They do it all the time. You see it happening in the coast all the time in the little cities, and in the little cities. And in the bigger cities, you know, it is more like, 14, 15 is like usually like the lowest they go. So these women, first of all, this guy, Timothy Allen Livingston, piece of shit. He didn't even get to go on the play date. It was an attempted play date. Didn't even take place. Second of all, the girls were almost of legal age of consent, which is fucked up in that country anyway. And then the last and most lowest IQ and hypocritical thing is that these girls were sold to him, provided to him by a criminal gang in Manrique. The girls didn't even live with their parents. They were living caged up like animals by a criminal gang in a house in Manrique neighborhood of Medellin, and no one gives a fuck, and no one is talking about this criminal gang that sold the girls to him in the first place. I'm just going to pause and let that sink in. The criminal gang that is ongoingly trafficking these young girls, and God knows how many other girls, and presumably, I don't know, kidnap them from their families, holding them as slaves, is not being talked about, is not being demonized in the media. For all, we know, very little efforts are made to publicly, dox their names and talk about them or pursue them. Yet the guy who didn't even successfully do what he came there to do, didn't even lay a finger on these girls, is the one being demonized and attacked. And again, as he should be, for the record, as he damn well should be. Horrible piece of shit. But again, he's doing or attempted to do what is practically legal. I mean, let's say the girl was 13 in 6 months. She's 6 months away. It's such a fucked up law. I had to look it up. I had to go through my sources, and I had to actually contact a lawyer to make sure what I was Googling about, the age of consent there actually being true. And, there's other things too, right? They murder gringos for sport down there. But then, God forbid, a gringo murders a girl. There was another case about some guy, he murdered his sugar baby who was cheating on him, some girl in Bogota. And yeah, long story short, she was just, using and abusing him. She was hoeing around. She was telling him that, she loved him and promising a relationship and marriage and family while just, ruthlessly backstabbing and cheating on him. And he murdered her. And you don't deserve to be, again, I don't support this anyway. You don't deserve to be murdered. Hey guys, my camera overheated, but I got cut off. But yeah, I don't think, for the record, that running around and being a hoe and lying to some guy should even remotely on any planet carry a death sentence, right? He should not have killed her. It was wrong. But it is also kind of ironic that people that, cultures, even in America, we do it, that you try to make like a hero or a martyr, even though they weren't the best people. But anyway, two last things I want to wrap up on, and I have irrefutable proof, by the way, so stay tuned, that 80%, I'll support my claim that 80% of the beautiful women, not all women, but 80% of the beautiful women in the city are selling the kitty there. But first, I just want to mention this, right? Now, the only reason why gringos still cling on to the Medellin dream and cope and refuse to kind of see what's before their eyes and just leave that city and go to a better city for picking up women or a better country, is that Medellin, however you want to pronounce it, that's how they pronounce it there, Medellin, has this really weird and unique thing in regards that the population has extremely beautiful women and the local men are extremely unattractive. So it's the opposite, right? You have extremely attractive women and very unattractive men. We all know the women are beautiful. You've been seeing all these girls that I met on Instagram, playing B-roll, on the screen. By the way, again, go to my page, Redbeard Rants 1, and DM me the word Instagram. I'll send you the free guide. But, the local men there are short. They have a weird, effeminate personality. They're extremely low IQ. They abuse their women physically. They're completely broke. They don't work out, etc. So, naturally, for the very few percentage of the women that are still open to dating gringos, we can just walk all over these local guys, right? Because they're just zero competition to us whatsoever, which is pretty nuts because I can't think of very many other places on earth where that exists, where like practically all the women are beautiful and practically all the local men are like the opposite, extremely unattractive. I mean, you look at Argentina, Brazil, even the United States, right? You got top tier women and top tier men. I mean, at least in the looks department. Personality, you wouldn't get too many top tier women, but you get my point. In terms of like looks, you get top tier women and top tier men in these places. Whereas like Medellin has like this weird thing, you don't typically see that. And that's why it became a hot spot, you know, in general. It was so easy to just dominate the local guys. And it still is if you're talking about like Venezuelan women or women from the coast who don't have these, you know, per se negative gringo stereotypes. So the last thing, I showed this in a video once before, I believe, but I get a lot of pushback. So I wanted to prove my thesis that 80% of the beautiful women there are doing sex work. So I'm going to actually move to the center of my camera now. And on one side of the screen, we'll have a news feed of my Instagram from Medellin and one from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now, the source of all these girls that I'm following as I'm scrolling through these two Instagram accounts is following girls who go to the nicest, most luxurious restaurants. So I get a new city and I start following the women, which is one of my best strategies for meeting girls, because then the ones that follow you back, you can slide into the DMs and you go straight to their inbox. You bypass the hidden request folder. But you'll notice that for the news feed where I'm following girls from Medellin, it looks like softcore porn. They're just all shaking their ass and trying to attract clients. They're just basically naked because much like the male peacock splays his feathers to attract a mate, these girls are all trying to attract clients and sugar daddies. Whereas the girls from Brazil all look classy and sexy, and maybe they're showing a bit of skin. Maybe they got a bikini picture here and there, but they're not outright just like twerking their ass in front of the camera. And again, the source of these women is I just went to the nicest, most luxurious restaurants, not nightclubs, not anything else, and started following all the girls that go to these nice restaurants. And you can see night and day the difference, you know, pretty much, you know, point blank period proof. Now, lastly, what you can do is message me the word Instagram, and you can get my guide to meeting all the beautiful women on Instagram that we've showed, you know, in the B-roll. And lastly is you can either click in the description or the video that's going to pop up on the screen, you know, in a second. As this video ends, in the last like 10 seconds, I'm going to show like a pop-up for a video that will show you step-by-step how to create a high-status social media profile if you want to work with me, how I help guys build one that will get you matches on dating apps, responses to your DMs, and just how I can help you step-by-step, again, create that high-status profile that is attractive to women, that works like a job resume. That's the equivalent of like a job resume saying that, you know, you worked at Google, OpenAI, and then you apply for tech companies, boom, you get the job. So at some point throughout the, you know, as this video ends, a link to that video will pop up, and subscribe to my channel because I'm the only one giving the truth about Medellin. So that's it, guys. Peace.